Baby, if you're reading this right now, I just need you to promise me one thing. Delete it after you finish. Not because I don't mean every word, but because some truths are too raw to live inside a phone. Some confessions deserve to stay only in the quiet space between your heartbeats. And that's where this belongs. Somewhere between what was and what still is. Somewhere between silence and surrender. I've written and deleted this message 100 times. Each time the words felt too heavy, too exposed, too close to the truth I've been running from. But tonight, I couldn't run anymore. The weight of everything unsaid finally grew louder than my pride. So I'm here, typing what I should have spoken when you were still beside me. I know this message might find you at a strange hour, maybe when you're half awake, maybe when you finally stop checking if I'll ever reach out again. But if your heart suddenly feels that familiar pull for no reason, this is why. Because I'm writing to you, baby. There's something sacred about silence, isn't there? How it can hold memories better than words ever could. I still remember the last time we spoke. How you were quiet, not because you didn't have words, but because you were done explaining things your soul already knew. You were calm in a way that terrified me, like someone who had finally learned to stop begging love to stay where it didn't feel safe. And I knew, right there, that I had lost something divine. It's strange how we spend so much time trying to look unbothered while our hearts are still bleeding underneath. I kept pretending I was fine, posting smiles, laughing too loudly, making it seem like life had moved on. But every night, when the noise faded, I'd find myself scrolling through our old messages, hovering over your name like a ghost afraid to knock. That's when I realized healing isn't about forgetting someone. It's about remembering them without breaking every time their memory breathes. And I haven't reached that point yet. Baby, I know what you might be thinking. That this is just another late night apology, another cycle of me saying sorry without really changing. But it's not. This isn't about trying to win you back. This is about giving you the truth I once buried under excuses, because you deserve closure that doesn't come wrapped in confusion. You deserve to know why I disappeared when all you ever did was stay. I was scared. That's the simplest way to say it. I was terrified of how deeply I felt for you. You see, I've had people come and go, but no one ever reached the part of me you did. The part I thought I had buried with my childhood, with my mistakes, with all the versions of me I swore I'd never let anyone touch again. But you walked in like light into a locked room. You didn't ask for permission. You just started healing things without even realizing you were doing it. And that scared me more than losing you ever could. Because when someone truly sees you, the real you, it strips away all the masks you've carefully built. You saw me, baby. Not the version I showed the world, but the broken boy hiding behind strength. You loved me there, in the dark. And instead of thanking you for that, I ran. I told myself I needed space, clarity, time. But the truth, I just didn't feel worthy of being loved that purely. And I know you felt that shift. I know the way I started pulling back didn't go unnoticed. You've always been too intuitive for your own peace. You could sense my distance even when I tried to fake closeness. Every "I'm just tired" was really code for "I'm drowning in feelings I don't know how to handle." And yet, you stayed. You stayed through my silence. You stayed through my confusion. You stayed even when I was pushing you away with trembling hands. Baby, I don't think I've ever told you this, but your love changed me. Not in the poetic Instagram compassionate way, but in the soul level, life-altering way. You taught me what it meant to be still. You taught me that peace doesn't mean the absence of chaos. It means choosing to love, even when everything inside you is screaming to protect yourself. You were peace. You were my safe space. And I took that for granted. Sometimes I wonder if you still think of me when the world goes quiet, if certain songs still feel heavy, if certain nights still ache in your bones the way they do in mine. Because for me, nothing has really changed. I still catch myself checking the time we used to talk, like my body remembers what my mind tries to forget. I still see your name in random places, and every time I do, it feels like the universe whispering. She's still part of your story, but I don't want to invade your peace again. That's not why I'm writing. I just need you to know. You were never just another chapter. You were the whole damn book that taught me what love was supposed to feel like. And maybe that's why I'm asking you to delete this after reading. Because this isn't a text meant for screenshots or second opinions. This is something sacred. Something meant to live only inside your heart, not your gallery. You were the first person who made me want to tell the truth, even when it made me look weak. You made me want to heal, not because I wanted to be better for the world, but because I wanted to be better for you. And when you left, I thought I'd finally learn how to forget. But the truth is, I didn't forget. I just learned how to carry you differently. You live in the spaces I don't talk about, in the way I pause before saying someone else's name, in the way I still can't look at the stars without remembering the night you told me you felt small under them, but loved anyway. You live in the rhythm of my quiet prayers, in the moments I feel undeserving and suddenly remember your voice saying, "You're doing better than you think." Maybe that's why this message had to find you, not because I want to reopen wounds, but because some stories don't end, they transform. And this is mine, transforming into truth, baby. If you feel your chest tighten right now, if your eyes sting, if your soul feels seen again, it's because love never dies. It just changes shape. And maybe this message is my way of letting that love breathe again, one last time, before I let it rest where it belongs, in your heart, not in your phone. Baby, before you delete this, I need to tell you what I couldn't say when I had the chance. The truth I swallowed so many times that it started to taste like regret. The words that have been burning a hole in my chest every night since the day you left. Maybe that's why this message feels more like a confession than a text, because it's not coming from my fingers. It's coming from the ache that never really healed. Do you remember that night, baby? The one where I said I just need time? You went quiet. You didn't argue. You just said, "Okay, but don't take too long." God, if I had known that was the last real moment we'd share, I would have held your voice a little longer. I would have memorized the pauses between your words, the way you sighed softly before saying goodbye, like someone already grieving something that wasn't dead yet, but dying all the same. That time I asked for became the distance I couldn't undo. It became the wall I built between us, brick by brick, made of pride, confusion, and fear. I told myself I'd reach out once I figured things out, but the truth is, I didn't know what figured out even meant. I thought healing meant disappearing. I thought protecting you meant pushing you away. I didn't realize that silence can hurt more than truth ever could. And you were patient. You gave me space I never earned. You respected a boundary that was built from my cowardice. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You just loved me quietly from wherever you were, trusting the universe more than you trusted my timing. That's what broke me later, realizing you never stopped believing, even when I gave you no reason to. I used to open our old chat sometimes, scrolling through everything we ever said like someone walking through an abandoned house. Every word was a ghost. Every emoji felt like a heartbeat that used to belong to us. I'd see your goodnight messages, the ones I used to leave on read because I thought I'd reply in the morning. But mornings came and I didn't. And now I'd trade every sunrise just to go back and say one more goodnight, baby, when it actually mattered. The world saw me moving on, but they didn't see the nights I kept the phone face down because your name still made my hands shake. They didn't see the way I stopped listening to the songs you loved because they turned every room into a graveyard of memories. They didn't see the way I'd type your name into the search bar just to make sure you were still alive, still creating, still shining, still breathing, somewhere under the same moon. And when I saw you smiling again, I felt both relief and pain. Relief that you found your light again, and pain that I wasn't part of it anymore. Because you deserved peace, even if it came at the cost of forgetting me. But the universe is cruel in how it teaches lessons. It lets you watch the person you prayed for finally heal. Without you, I kept asking myself, why am I still holding on? But now I know. It's because love like ours doesn't dissolve. It lingers. It becomes part of who you are. You can delete the messages, block the number, move to another city. But when a soul touches another soul the way ours did, it leaves fingerprints you can't wash off. You used to tell me, love isn't about permanence, it's about presence. I didn't understand that back then. I thought love meant forever, that if it ended, it must not have been real. But now, I see what you meant. You were present, baby, fully, even in silence, even when I didn't deserve your grace. You loved like it was your last day, every day. And I loved like I had infinite tomorrows. That's the difference between us, who understood eternity through moments. I learned it through losing you. Sometimes I still feel you, not in a haunted way, in a divine one. Like when the air suddenly shifts, or when I catch a scent that smells like the night you wore my hoodie. Sometimes I swear I hear your laugh in crowded places. And maybe that's crazy, but I've stopped trying to reason with the sacred, because maybe that's what twin flames are. Two souls bound by timing, but separated by lessons. I think that's why I needed you to delete this after reading, because this isn't a message meant to reopen wounds. It's a whisper from the space between forgiveness and closure. If you keep it in your phone, it'll just become another notification that gets buried under new ones. But if you keep it in your heart, it'll live as something softer. A reminder that love, even when it doesn't last, still matters. You once said, one day you'll understand why I stopped fighting. I understand now. You weren't giving up on us. You were giving in to fate. You were surrendering to something bigger. The kind of surrender I was too stubborn to learn. You let go, not because you stopped loving me, but because you finally started loving yourself. And I admire that now. I really do. If I could go back, I wouldn't rewrite our story. I'd relive it exactly as it was. The laughter, the late night talks, the quiet goodbyes. Because even with all the pain, it was real. You were real. The love was real. And that's all I ever wanted to know in this lifetime. That I got to love someone who made me believe in soul connections again. So if you're reading this, baby, don't save it. Don't screenshot it. Just close your eyes and let my words sink into your soul like a prayer that's been waiting to be heard. Let it remind you that you were never forgotten, that you were always loved, fiercely, silently, endlessly. Because even now, across distance and silence and all the things left undone, my heart still beats a little differently when it remembers yours. And maybe, just maybe, baby, you know what's strange? Every time I sit down to write this, my hands tremble like they remember all the times I almost typed your name, but didn't. I don't even know how many unsent messages live inside my phone. Whole paragraphs, whole confessions, saved in drafts, hidden behind the illusion that one day, when I'm brave enough, I'll finally hit send. But I never did. Because no matter how many times I tried, the truth always felt too heavy for a screen. There were nights I opened your chat, stared at your last message and imagined you doing the same. I used to wonder if maybe, just maybe, you could feel me thinking about you, like an invisible thread pulling gently on your heart at 2:37 IMing, when the world was asleep, but we never really were. I used to believe that souls like ours never disconnect, that they just shift dimensions. But lately, I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe I broke the thread myself. Maybe I tugged too hard when you needed space, or went silent when you needed truth. You once told me, you don't lose people who are meant for you, you just lose the version of yourself that couldn't love them right. Those words haunt me, because now I understand exactly what you meant. I didn't lose you, baby. I lost the part of me that was safe in your light. And I've been trying to find him again ever since. The truth is, I wasn't ready for the kind of love you brought into my life. You were too calm for my chaos, too honest for my shadows, too sacred for my half-healed heart. And instead of rising to meet your energy, I kept pulling you down into my storms. I thought love meant control, that I needed to protect you from my brokenness, but all you ever wanted was my honesty, not my perfection. I didn't understand that then. Now it's all I think about. There are moments, small, fleeting moments, where I can still feel your presence. Like when the sky turns that soft shade of gold right before sunset. Or when I hear a song that sounds too much like the way your voice felt. Sometimes I stop mid-step, mid-breath, mid-sentence because your memory slips through the cracks of my defenses. It's not loud, it's not painful anymore. It's just there, like oxygen wired, constant. I think that's what hurts the most, that even after all this time, you still feel like home. Not the kind of home that demands to be lived in again, but the kind that still smells like comfort long after you've left it behind. And maybe that's what real love is, baby. Not possession, not permanence, but presence that refuses to fade. You'd laugh if you saw me now. You'd say, you're still overthinking everything. And you'd be right. I still replay every argument, every silence, every moment I could have held you tighter and didn't. It's like my mind built a museum of you, and I walk through it every night, touching memories like artifacts. There's your laugh, the one that cracked through my walls. There's your good morning text that made the worst days bearable. There's that night you cried and said, "Promise me, even if we lose each other, you'll never forget that I loved you honestly." I didn't forget. I never could. And that's why I'm writing this now. Not to rekindle something that time has changed, but to honor what was real. Because baby, I've met people since you, and every single one of them taught me one thing. Love without depth feels like silence in a crowded room. It doesn't echo. It doesn't linger. It doesn't burn the way yours did. You once asked me, "Why do you always hide the good things?" I never answered, but maybe now I can, because I didn't know how to share something I didn't understand. You were light, baby, and I was afraid that if the world saw how brightly you shined in my life, they'd take you from me. I didn't realize that love doesn't need to be hidden to be protected. It just needs to be honored. That's why I keep saying, delete this after reading, because I don't want this message to be proof. I want it to be presence. I don't want screenshots to hold what your heart already knows. I want you to feel it, not as nostalgia, but as closure that doesn't hurt anymore. Sometimes I still talk to you in my prayers, not asking for you back, just thanking the universe for crossing our paths, for the lessons, for the healing, for the kind of love that stripped me raw enough to meet myself for the first time. You showed me that love isn't something to earn, it's something to embody. You don't chase it, you become it. And baby, I've been becoming ever since. There are nights I dream of running into you again. Not in some grand movie moment, just ordinary. Maybe at a bookstore, maybe on a quiet street. You'd look up, and for a heartbeat, the world would feel familiar again. I don't know what we'd say. Maybe nothing. Maybe just a small smile, the kind that says, "I remember." And that would be enough. You taught me that closure isn't about getting answers. It's about accepting that some souls are chapters, not conclusions. But God, what a chapter you were. You walked into my life like a sentence that didn't need editing. You left like punctuation, soft, final, but necessary. Still, if I could tell you one last thing, it would be this. You were right about love. It doesn't end. It just transforms. It moves from voice to silence, from presence to memory, from us to I. But it keeps breathing. Somewhere between every what if and maybe someday, it still lives. So maybe this message isn't a goodbye after all. Maybe it's just me finally speaking the truth you always deserve to hear. That even if life never brings us back to the same chapter, your name will always sound like prayer when it leaves my lips. And when I say keep it in your heart, not in your phone, what I really mean is don't let the digital world define what was divine. Let it stay pure. Let it stay untouchable. Let it stay sacred. Because love like ours doesn't belong in archives or chat histories. It belongs where it began, in the heart. And if by some miracle these words find their way to you at the right time, if you feel that sudden pull, that strange warmth that feels like me, just close your eyes and whisper, "I know." Because that's all I ever wanted you to know, baby. That I still remember, that I still feel it, that I still care. Baby, I've rewritten this part more times than I can count, because this is the one truth that scares me the most. The reason I never sent any of those messages. The reason I kept my love for you buried beneath excuses and timing and pride, it wasn't because I didn't care. It wasn't because I moved on. It was because every time I tried to reach out, something sacred inside me whispered, "Not yet." It's strange, isn't it? How love can turn into something spiritual, even after it ends. How a simple connection between two people can start to feel like divine intervention. Like heaven itself stepped in and said, "This is not the end, but you must learn apart before you can love again." I used to fight that voice. I used to curse it, hate it, beg it to give me one more chance with you. But now I understand. Some separations aren't punishments. They're sacred pauses. I think the universe was protecting you from me. Because back then, baby, I was a storm pretending to be a safe place. I was still bleeding from old wounds, still hiding from my own reflection. And even though your love was pure, I would have tainted it with my chaos. You deserved a man who could hold your light without dimming it. I wasn't him, not yet. Though I stayed silent. I convinced myself it was mercy, not cowardice. I told myself I was giving you peace, but the truth, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. To love you in silence, to watch your life unfold from afar, to feel your energy in dreams and still wake up alone. It's a kind of love that doesn't fit in words. It only breathes in ache. There were nights I'd open your old photos just to remember how it felt to be seen by you. You had this way of looking at me like you could read the part of my soul even I was scared to explore. You never demanded perfection. You just wanted honesty. And I gave you everything except that. I thought I was protecting you by hiding my darkness, but in doing so, I made you feel unseen. And for that, baby, I'll carry that regret for a lifetime. Sometimes I imagine how it would have gone if I had stayed, if I had been brave enough to sit beside you and say, "I'm broken, but I'm trying." Maybe you would have understood. Maybe you would have held my hand instead of my silence. But I can't rewrite it now. All I can do is tell you the truth, the kind I never had the courage to before. You see, love like ours doesn't die when the messages stop. It lives in the quiet corners of your spirit. It hides in the lyrics of random songs. It shows up in the dreams you can't explain. I feel you there, baby. Not every day, not in obvious ways, but in sacred moments, like when I'm driving and the sky suddenly shifts colors, or when the air feels too heavy with memories, or when I pass by a place that somehow still smells like your laughter. You've become part of my internal compass, the still voice that says, "Do better this time." Every good thing I've learned about love since losing you came from remembering how you loved me. You taught me that love isn't about claiming someone. It's about becoming someone worthy of being claimed. You taught me that silence can be love too, if it's filled with prayers instead of resentment. And baby, I prayed, God knows I prayed, not for us to go back, but for you to never forget your worth, for you to always find warmth when the world feels cold, for you to meet people who see what I saw in you and never make you question it the way I did. There were days I cried, not out of heartbreak, but out of gratitude, because I realized I got to experience something most people only dream about, a love that awakened my soul. I used to think I had to erase you to move forward, but no, I just had to learn to carry you differently. You don't live in my regrets anymore. You live in my evolution. You live in every gentle word I speak, in every boundary I respect, in every heart I treat with care now. You became the blueprint for the man I'm still becoming. I guess that's why I'm finally sending this, even if it's too late. Because this time I'm not speaking from fear, I'm speaking from truth. I don't want to be remembered as the man who broke your heart. I want to be remembered as the man who finally understood what it means to love selflessly. The man who learned that sometimes love's truest form is distance that protects both souls from further harm. So if you ever wonder why I stayed quiet for so long, this is why. Because every time I thought of reaching out, something divine whispered, "She's healing. Don't interrupt what's sacred." And I listened. For once in my life, I listened. Because I love you enough now to want your peace more than my presence. Still, I need you to know, I never stopped writing to you. I just stopped sending. There are entire pages of my journal filled with words that will never meet your eyes but belong entirely to you. Words like, I hope she's eating. I hope she's smiling again. I hope someone is making her laugh the way I used to. And sometimes, when the night gets too quiet, I still whisper your name. Not to call you back, but to thank you for walking with me, even if only for a chapter. Maybe in another lifetime, we'll meet again. Not as broken people trying to heal each other, but as healed souls ready to love without fear. And when that happens, I won't need to ask you to delete the message, because there will be no messages. There will only be presence, eyes meeting across lifetimes, recognizing the love that never really left until then. Keep me in your prayers, baby, not as a memory, but as a lesson, because that's what you've become to me, the most beautiful, painful, necessary lesson of my life. And if you ever feel a sudden warmth when you're alone, a calm that makes no sense, that's me, still loving you, still protecting you, still keeping you safe, even from the shadows that once lived in me. Delete this message if you must, but promise me one thing. Don't forget the love that wrote it, because even if you erase the words, the energy will stay. It always does. Baby, I don't know how to begin this part without my voice shaking, because this isn't just about what I felt after you left. It's about who I became because you did. For a long time, I thought your absence was a punishment. I thought God was taking you away to teach me a lesson about loss, but now I understand. He wasn't punishing me. He was preparing me to finally see what you had always seen in me. The part that was worth saving. The day you walked away, everything fell silent. I didn't realize how much noise your love used to make, how your laughter filled spaces I didn't even know were empty, how your presence had become the heartbeat of my world. When you left, it wasn't just quiet, it was hollow. Every sound felt wrong, every corner of my home felt unfamiliar, like I was living in a place stripped of color. Even time changed. The days didn't move forward, they just repeated themselves. Empty, mechanical, endless. I tried to fill the void. I talked to people. I smiled when they said I looked better. I went out, laughed at things that weren't funny, pretended I was fine. But every time I'd get home, I'd find myself reaching for my phone, scrolling through our old messages, stopping myself from typing something as simple as, I miss you. Because what good are those words when you've already said goodbye? There were nights when I thought I saw your shadow in the kitchen light, in the reflection of the window, in the corners of my memory that refused to fade. It wasn't you, of course. It was just my heart trying to trick my mind into believing you were still here. I'd sit there, staring at your last text, reading it over and over again like it was scripture. Take care of yourself. 3 words, that's all. But those 3 words carried 1,000 unspoken things. Disappointment, love, surrender, hope. I didn't take care of myself, baby. Not at first. I drowned in work. I drowned in noise. I drowned in people who didn't know how to look at me without reminding me of you. And no matter how much I tried to pretend I was moving on, everything still came back to you. Every kindness I gave someone felt like a repayment for what you gave me. Every mistake I made felt like a wound reopening in your name. You became my measure for everything good, everything real. One night, when the weight of it became too much, I finally broke. Not in anger, not in regret, but in truth. I dropped to my knees and cried until my body couldn't anymore. I wasn't crying because you were gone. I was crying because I finally understood why you had to leave. You left because love can't survive in someone who hasn't learned to love themselves. You left because I was still building my peace on your patience, and you deserved better than that. You deserved someone who could give you the same light you kept pouring into others. That's when the healing began, not all at once, but quietly, slowly, painfully. I started facing the parts of me I used to hide from you, the insecurities, the anger, the self-doubt, the fears that made me push you away whenever you got too close. I started journaling again, something you used to tell me to do. You always said, you write beautifully when you stop trying to sound perfect, and maybe that's why this message sounds different, baby. Because for the first time, I'm not trying to sound perfect. I'm just trying to sound real. Do you know what's crazy? I still hear your voice sometimes. Not like a haunting, like a guidance. Like when I'm about to make a mistake and I hear your softness saying, "Don't do it that way." Or when I'm tempted to give up and I hear your laugh in my mind saying, "I told you you're stronger than you think." It's like your energy never left, it just transformed. You became this invisible force that keeps me grounded when I drift too far from who I'm meant to be. I remember once you said, "If we ever part, promise me you'll still chase your purpose." And I didn't answer, because I didn't believe I had one without you. But now I see what you meant. You didn't want to be my purpose. You wanted to be my mirror. You wanted me to find the version of myself that could stand on his own. And I think I finally found him. He's different now. He doesn't chase love. He nurtures it. He doesn't speak to prove. He listens to understand. He doesn't build walls. He builds peace. And every time he chooses kindness over ego, I know it's because of you. You planted that seed in me, and even though you weren't here to watch it grow, it did. I don't know if you'll ever read this, but if you do, I hope it doesn't make you sad. I hope it makes you proud, because every step I've taken toward becoming a better man began with your love and your leaving. You were both the lesson and the light, and I finally understand that the two were never separate. I see the world differently now. I see meaning in the smallest things, in the way rain sounds like forgiveness, in the way sunsets remind me that endings can be beautiful too. You used to tell me, everything ends. That's what makes it precious. And I didn't get it then. I wanted forever with you. but now I see that maybe forever isn't measured in time. It's measured in impact. And baby, your impact lives in me like breath. Sometimes, I still catch myself writing to you. Not like this, not to send, but in letters I'll never post. I write about the things you taught me, the dreams I'm still chasing, the ways I'm finally learning to forgive myself. I keep those letters folded in a drawer, tied with a ribbon, like sacred promises I'll never break again. If you ever feel like the world forgot what you gave it, remember this message, because even if I asked you to delete it, the truth behind it is eternal. You changed me. You turned a boy hiding behind pain into a man who isn't afraid to love deeply anymore. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's worship. You showed me that love isn't something you lose. It's something you carry. And I carry you, baby, not like a wound, but like a blessing. Not like a ghost, but like grace. Not in my phone, but in my soul. So if you ever wonder what happened after you left, know this: I didn't move on. I moved deeper into healing, into purpose, and every bit of it was written in your name. Delete this message if you must, but know that what it carries will never fade, because real love, the kind that changes you from the inside out, doesn't need to be kept to be remembered. It becomes part of who you are. And baby, I'll be carrying you in every kind thing I ever do, in every prayer I whisper for peace, and in every quiet moment where I finally feel like the man you always believed I could become. Baby, by the time you read this part, I hope you've already felt what I've been trying to say since the first line, that every word I've written isn't coming from the man who lost you. It's coming from the soul that finally found itself through loving you. You were never my heartbreak. You were my mirror, my reminder, my awakening. There was a time when I thought healing meant forgetting, that peace could only come once your name stopped echoing in my bones. But now I know, peace isn't the absence of what broke you. It's learning how to live with the memory and not flinch when it touches you. It's learning how to smile when a moment reminds you of someone you'll never stop loving, even from afar. You were my moment of truth, baby, the one that stripped away everything false, everything shallow, everything that was built out of fear instead of faith. You cracked me open, and everything that wasn't love fell out. After you left, I started seeing signs everywhere, in songs, in numbers, in dreams I didn't understand. It's like the universe kept whispering your name just to make sure I didn't forget why I had to wake up. There were nights I'd dream of us standing in a field of light. No words, no distance, no pain, just presence. You looked at me and smiled like you already knew I'd finally understood. And when I'd wake up, that dream would feel more real than the daylight. That's when I realized something sacred. Love doesn't need to return to be fulfilled. It only needs to be recognized. What we had didn't end, baby. It evolved. It changed form. It became part of the current that moves through everything now. The music I write, the peace I carry, the softness I offer to others. You became the quiet frequency that hums beneath every kind word I speak. You became prayer, and maybe that's what divine love really is. Not possession, not permanence, but transformation. It takes everything it touches and turns it into light. That's what you did for me. You turned my fear into faith, my pride into humility, my loneliness into purpose. You turned me toward myself, the self I was always too afraid to meet. There's something I never told you, something I used to hide behind all the times I said, I'm fine. The truth is, I still talk to you, not out loud, not through screens, but in spirit, when I'm standing by the ocean, when I'm praying before sleep, when I look at the moon and wonder if you see the same one. I talk to you there, not to bring you back, but to let the energy of you remind me what love feels like when it's pure. You used to say, one day you'll understand why love had to hurt first, and I hated that. I used to think love shouldn't hurt at all, but now I see. The pain wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. It showed me where I was still hiding, where I was still afraid, where I was still clinging, instead of trusting. The pain became sacred because it turned into awakening. That's why I can finally write these words without breaking, because I no longer see you as the one who left. I see you as the one who arrived when I needed to remember what love was supposed to be. You walked into my life like a whisper from the divine and left like a lesson written in stars. And though I may never hold you again, I will carry you in everything I do, because love, this real, doesn't die. It reassigns itself. It becomes guided. I can feel you out there, baby. Maybe you've moved on. Maybe you've learned to laugh again, to love again, to build a life that doesn't ache in my shape anymore. And I'm proud of that, truly, because loving you taught me what freedom means. And freedom means wanting someone's happiness, even if it's no longer built beside you. So this isn't a goodbye, it's a release. It's me bowing to the love that changed both of us. It's me saying, thank you for coming. Thank you for teaching. Thank you for loving me into growth. You are still the prayer I whisper when I forget how far I've come. You are still the heartbeat behind every promise I now keep. You are still the soul that showed me how divine love feels. Unconditional, patient, forgiving, and real. And if fate ever lets our paths cross again, I don't want it to be with apologies. I want it to be with peace. I want us to meet as two souls who survived the fire and came out shining, not burned, but purified. Ooh, because that's what you were, baby. You weren't the ending of my story. You were the fire that turned it into meaning. You were the chapter where I stopped running from myself. You were the sentence that taught me what truth sounds like when spoken with love. So yes, delete this message, but not because it doesn't matter. Delete it because it's already fulfilled its purpose. These words don't belong in your inbox anymore. They belong in your soul. Keep living, keep shining. Keep believing in the kind of love that doesn't beg to be seen. It shows itself in how it heals others long after it's gone. You taught me that. You are that. And I promise you, no matter where I go, no matter who I meet, no matter what the world takes or gives, a part of me will always be silently thanking you. Because I finally get it now, baby. You were never my loss. You were my awakening. And that will never be deleted, baby. I never thought I'd reach the part of the story where I could write to you without trembling. For so long, my words felt like wounds, every sentence bleeding with guilt, every paragraph heavy with what-ifs. But tonight, something feels different. The silence isn't hollow anymore. It's peaceful, like the universe has finally exhaled and said, now you understand. I used to think closure came from someone else's words. I waited for a text, a call, a sign, anything that would make the ache stop. But the truth is, closure isn't something you get handed. It's something you create when you choose to stop running from the truth. And the truth, baby, is this: I loved you deeply, messily, imperfectly, but honestly. And I still do. Not in a way that wants to own you, but in a way that blesses you, that blesses you. There are nights when I still write to you in my notes app. Little fragments of thought that start with, if you were here, and end with, I'd tell you, I'm finally okay. I don't hit send. I just let the words sit there until they stop hurting. Because sometimes healing isn't about reaching out. It's about realizing the message has already been delivered, not through Wi-Fi, not through screens, but through energy, through the same invisible current that once made us think of each other at the same time for no reason at all. Do you remember that, baby? How I'd message you, I was just thinking of you, and you'd reply, I felt that. That connection never really left. It just changed its language. Now it speaks through wind, through timing, through the way certain songs start playing right when I think of you. The world still whispers your name to me in quiet, sacred ways. I used to fight those memories. Now I let them wash over me. Because resisting love only turns it into pain. Accepting it transforms it into light. And you've become my light. Not the blinding kind that burns, the soft kind that guides. You should know, baby, life did go on, slowly, unevenly, but it did. There are new faces now, new cities, new stories, but none of them live where you lived, because you weren't just a person in my life. You were a frequency, a vibration that shifted something in me permanently. Everyone else I meet now feels like echoes of a lesson you already taught. There's a calmness in me these days that you'd recognize instantly. You'd smile and say, you finally learned to breathe, didn't you? And I'd nod. Because yes, I did. I breathe differently now. I love differently now. I listen differently now. Because of you. You taught me that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about sacred presence. It's in remembering someone's favorite tea, in noticing when their voice dips slightly and asking, what's wrong? It's in holding space when words run out. You did all that for me without even trying. And now, I try to live that way for others. There's something you should know. Something I never admitted even to myself. I used to reread your old voice notes just to remember what peace sounded like. You had this softness in your tone, this way of saying my name that made me believe the universe hadn't completely given up on me yet. I've deleted them now, not out of pain, but out of gratitude, because I realized peace doesn't live in recordings. It lives in what they awaken, and what you awakened in me was faith, in love, in healing, in destiny. I'm not the man who lost you anymore. I'm the man who's learning how to love without fear, how to speak without hiding, how to stand in his truth, even when it shakes. And that's because of you. You were the catalyst, baby. The spark, the mirror. I used to write prayers asking for a second chance with you. Now, I just pray that you're safe, that you're loved in ways that never make you question yourself again, that whoever holds your heart now knows they're holding something rare, something heaven-made. And if you ever wonder about me, if you ever look at the sky and think of my name, just know that I'm looking at the same sky, whispering your name too. Not as a wish, not as a regret, but as a blessing, because that's what you'll always be to me. A blessing I wasn't wise enough to keep, but grateful enough to remember. I guess this is my last unsent message. Not because I'm out of words, but because everything that needed to be said has already been lived. You were the lesson I had to feel, not read. The kind of love that teaches by leaving. And even though the story between us has ended on paper, it still breathes in spirit. So if this message reaches you, through timing, through fate, through a whisper you can't explain, just close your eyes and feel the peace behind it. Feel how loved you still are. Feel how seen you still remain. Because even from miles away, even from lifetimes away, I'm still sending you warmth, still sending you gratitude, still sending you love that asks for nothing in return. Me, one day, the universe will bring us face to face again. Not as two halves looking for completion, but as two wholes who made peace with their story. Baby, if your heart has carried every word to this point, then maybe this was never just a message between two people. Maybe it was a message between two souls who needed a mirror. Because somewhere in the ache, the silence, and the truth, you didn't just read his story. You found pieces of your own. That's what love like this does. It reflects, it teaches, it transforms. Love is not something that leaves when someone does. It lingers. It reshapes you. It teaches you how to feel without fear, how to hold without control, how to let go without hatred. It turns pain into power and memories into meaning. And even though this story was written as a message from me to you, it now belongs to every soul that ever loved deeply and lost quietly. So baby, if you're still here, if you've felt your chest tighten, your eyes burn, your soul ache just a little, then let this be your sign. You're not crazy for still feeling it. You're not weak for missing someone you've outgrown. You're not broken because you loved and it didn't last. You're divine for still believing in connection after everything that tried to numb you. I want you to breathe now. Deeply inhale everything you once gave away. Exhale everything that was never yours to carry. This is not the end of love. It's the continuation of it in a softer, truer form. You don't need them to come back to be complete. You are already whole. You are always whole. If they think of you tonight, let it be peace that meets them, not pain. If their name crosses your mind, let it be gratitude that follows, not grief. If the past knocks again, let it find you wiser, calmer, and shining with quiet strength. Because love, when it's real, doesn't ask to be owned. It asks to be honored. And you, beloved, have honored it beautifully by feeling it this deeply. So if this message touched your soul, if you felt seen, if you felt understood, if somewhere between the words your heart whispered, "That's me," then know this. The universe wanted you to hear it. You were meant to arrive here. You were meant to remember that love is never wasted. Every emotion you gave, every tear you shed, every prayer you whispered, it all returns to you as light. And now, it's time to release it. Don't forget, just release. because release is love too. So whisper this now, out loud or in your spirit. I release what was. I bless what is. I trust what's coming. Let that be your prayer, your closure, your new beginning. And if your heart feels lighter right now, stay with me for a second, because this moment, this quiet, healing space is what we've built together. Every video, every word, every message is for souls like yours who love deeply, who feel everything, who still believe in something bigger. If this story moved you, if you felt your truth somewhere in between these lines, show some love back, baby. Tap the super thanks below to support the channel, to help this message reach someone who needs to hear it next. Every small gesture keeps this light alive. And before you go, comment below. I forgive, I release, I am free, because once you speak it, the healing begins. Until next time, beloved, take care of your heart, keep your faith steady, and remember, the universe always returns what's meant for you, but only after you've learned to love without fear. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You are loved, fiercely, eternally, divinely. This is your sign. This is your message. And this is your peace